Hey everybody. So in yesterday's video, I got the looping working, and so I decided to add another um, try Copilot Bing, ask real questions, get complete answers, turn ideas into written works. So anyways, that just popped up on my computer. Uh, no, thank you. But anyways, yeah. So we got the looping working, which was cool, and now today I got pause working in pause time. So basically, it's pretty cool. Just so you get an overall idea of what we got, we have one mesh that's moving around, and then we have a camera. Oh, but we have some lights. The camera I didn't do anything with. We have some lights, and they're just kind of scattered all around. And it's going to be really cool when we can create meshes and mark them for animation and other meshes aren't, so that we could have like the lights visible and get some idea of what's going on there. But this is cool. So basically, I have this slider here, and I can just go like this. So let me see. Let me turn off the pause and see. You see it rolling through, and it's. Let me make the loop like 2 instead of that, or this even, yeah. So let's just make the loop 2, so you kind of see what's going on. And let's say you were like, oh, I want to make this really cool precise thing. Okay, I pause it, automatically defaults to 0 pausing, and then you can go like that. And let's say you're like, oh, you know what, I'd rather it be 3. Boom. And then and like this, I don't know if you noticed, but like if this down here just automatically updates, and I did nothing to make that happen. It was just the way it was built out. All this stuff just wired together, and stuff just works. And that is one of, I honestly think that is more. That's just all pure Angular and Angular material magic. It's just a lot of stuff that they have wired up behind the scenes. Definitely, you could do vanilla JavaScript and get all that working. Um, but it's a lot of code, and that just happens for you. Um, but you do have to have like a lot of expertise. Let's see, we are 2 minutes and 30 seconds in, so I'm starting the timer now. So, anyways, first things first. I think early on in this project, I was like, sometimes I start at the bottom and work my way up. Sometimes I start at the interface level and work my way down. And definitely as part of this project, I have decided that it's just always like, it's just a firm fixed rule. Start at the interface and work your way down. Interface, and then service, or the TypeScript generally, but interface is the first thing you want to do. Because when I worked down from like the component and got it kind of working at the component level up, I ended up having to go back and forth like 2 or 3 times, iterating up and down the loop to get it working. With this, it's just literally start the interface and work your way down. You're done when you hit the bottom. But anyways, so I added a pause, which is a boolean, which is tied to this checkbox, and a pause time, which is a number, which is how long, what time we're paused at. Um, and it's just that simple to update. And then it works like a charm. So let's go to the service. So this broke right out of the bat. So you'll notice that sometimes when I update the interface, what happens is something breaks in the component, and sometimes it breaks in the service. And it breaks in the service when whatever the item is created by default. So this animation item is created by default. Camera is created by default. Scene is created by default, but meshes are not, and lights are not. So less meshes and lights are created when you hit add and delete, and so they're handled at the component level. That's why it breaks that way, and that's like a good thing to understand. Okay, so anyways, so I had it broke. The compilation broke. I had to fix that, and then wish I didn't have to scroll, because there's like these cool buttons, but there's like a little recording modal that's in the way up there. I guess it's not a modal, but a recording thing in the way there that you can't see. So in the code, I just basically say, if I change this structure, and and it's actually, there wasn't a code change. I had initially played around with doing something with the pause in there, but it was unnecessary and confusing. But basically, while we're looping, if it checks to see if the animation is paused, and if it is, it updates the mesh for time. And let's see, let me scroll, and it passes in whatever the pause time is. So the pause time by default is 0. So typically the first time it would be 0, but and then after that, when you change the pause time, it's changing. So this code is still firing over and over and over again on ref, on every request frame. So every time a request frame happens, this code is running, and then it's passing in the pause time. So basically, it's like I change this, and a different pause time gets passed in. If we are not paused, the else, um, then and yeah. So this is the rarer event. So I believe you want to do the rarer event first. Is that right, or do you want to do the more common event first? Yeah, I think you want to do the more common event first. So this should have been sort of reversed for like pure functional speed, like to save cycles. But I don't really like negative coding. Like this is not, and then have this code up there and that code. So there's that problem. Um, and then like we could have named this thing like not paused or something like that. But anyways, just I am giving readability advantage over efficiency. But my understanding is behind the scenes, the browser actually, once it sees something like this, once it sees a pattern where there's there's code that's being run that is being skipped over and over again and is less likely, it actually changes the code under the covers to make that happen. And that's just like one of the things that Chrome and Firefox and those guys do to make the browser faster. So it probably makes sense. Like my understanding is that, like, if it sees this happen like 40 or 50 times, the last time I read about this, which was literally like 8 years ago, um, if it sees something happen over and over again like 40 or 50 times, it actually behind the scenes changes the code so that it becomes more efficient. So it makes a lot of sense to write it so that it's more readable for a human being, because the browser will fix it itself. That is a very difficult argument to win in a PR. So, but it's really nice. Like if you have a knowledgeable manager or a very open-minded manager and an open-minded team, it's nice if you can explain something like that, show them a little documentation, and they go, "Okay, fine, let's leave it that way." But a lot of people, that is unusual. And then I did mention last time that I wanted to make the update mesh for time more pure. Right now, what it was doing is it was retrieving the mesh itself. Um, yeah, it was doing this find within it, and I changed it to where it gets passed in the mesh item. So that will make it easier to move this update mesh for time into its own into a separate service. Um, it basically makes it where it's not dependent on having access to the service properties, so it can be independent. And that also, as a side effect, makes it a lot easier to unit test. Let's see. Okay, so we did interfaces, and the HTML is very straightforward. I added something so it only shows up if we're looping. So like if I remove looping, it's hidden. But if I add looping, now if it's paused, looping doesn't make a lot of sense. So we unpause it, do that, and then we turn animations off, and now it's not animating. We have a lot of flexibility of things we can do, and that's cool. And then last but not least, we are at 9 minutes and 38 seconds. So that's pretty good, especially for a Saturday. It's probably a Thursday for you. I have this 5-day lag, which is kind of cool because that means my Sunday rants are on Friday. Which I have to admit, when I was working, if I was gonna hear a rant, I wanted it to be on Friday. So, But anyways, so update pause is a function that I added an update pause time. So let's go back to the HTML. And so on the checkbox, we call the update pause and we pass in the event. And then in the animation times, we do the animation pause time. So this is interesting. Honestly, did I used ng model? Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, because that's how it's set up in the example. They use ng model. I figured, hey, might as well use it. But another option would have been to just pass in the event here. And if you pass in the event, and I did actually implement it that way before, and uh, on value change. So, anyways, that is anytime the value change, this update pause time happens. Anytime the animation is paused, I wonder if that's even necessary. Let me go ahead and delete this. Save. Mesh. Add a mesh. Animation. Pause. No, it's not even necessary. So actually, let me just go ahead and get rid of that because that will confuse it. Now, the reason it isn't necessary is because the ng model is updating it. And the only reason I was pretty sure that that was the case was because um, it doesn't wait that update, the value change only happens like when it's actually when you're done dragging it, but the model update happens instantly. That's why when I do this, it moves even though I haven't let go. Now I've let go. Now if I move it to the left, it moves, and now I let go. Um, so we don't even need that function at all, and that would be very confusing. Although if you dig into the way that code works, you definitely have to understand the way this is something I just hark on over and over again is the way memory is allocated would be very confusing um, to anyone who's not super familiar with the way JavaScript allocates memory. So anyways, yeah, even with my 2-minute bonus, I have used up all my time. My alarm is going off, and happy coding. Bye, everybody.